Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Caleb Likes Books. Today I have another book review for you, and that is for Wintertide by Ruthanna Emrys. This is the first book in the Innsmouth Legacy duology, which is a Lovecraftian duology, specifically kind of taking inspiration from the Shadow over Innsmouth in particular. This is a book that I've heard a lot about. I'm a big H.P. Lovecraft fan, as some of you may know, and I've been trying to find some other books that were very inspired by his works and set in the Cthulhu mythos or things like that. And as I was looking through trying to find other books to check out, the Innsmouth Legacy duology is one that kept coming up over and over again, and so I became very interested in reading it. And so I got my hands on both books and have read the first one. So I was really looking forward to reading this trilogy. I really was hopeful that I would enjoy it a lot. And I am sad to say, even though I did enjoy some elements of this book, overall I felt like it was a little bit disappointing, which is really unfortunate because I was really excited to read it. Who knows, maybe I'll enjoy the second book more, but yeah, this one didn't quite land for me, unfortunately. But first, to talk about some good stuff as far as this book goes, I would say pretty much everything good I have to say about Wintertide lands on the world building front. The way that this book handles the world building of the Cthulhu mythos, I think, is really, really cool. Because the kind of premise behind this book in terms of like the characters is that it primarily follows a character named Afra, who comes from the Marsh family, which was a family that was present or mentioned at least in the Shadow over Innsmouth. And she is a descendant of Innsmouth. She is one of the Innsmouth people, hence Innsmouth Legacy, the name of this duology. Afra is a descendant of that town. And that town was interbreeding with the Deep Ones and things like that, and so the Innsmouth people were very, they were human, but they were also part Deep One and things like that. And they also are very, the way I think of it is they're kind of on the inside when it comes to knowledge of the mythos and things like that. Most of Lovecraft's works deal with people who are kind of on the outside looking in, people who are not part of these religions, part of these groups that are knowledgeable about the greater cosmic truth and things like that of all these, gods and things like that. They're very much on the outside and finding out about this stuff, which then typically tends to drive them insane and just generally doesn't go very well for them. Whereas this is from someone kind of on the inside, so to speak, where this person is knowledgeable about all of these things. This person does practice religions worshiping these gods and things like that, which is a very interesting twist on the Cthulhu mythos. So this character is knowledgeable about, the different gods, Yog-Sothoth and Cthulhu and Shub-Niggurath and all these kinds of things. And that was one of my favorite parts of this book, was seeing the Cthulhu mythos from that perspective, because this character and the ones around them provide a very interesting look at the Cthulhu mythos through the lens of religion and belief. And so you have these interesting religious rituals that they do, or different kinds of magic that they use, which are really interesting, and things like that, which I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I really enjoyed just the way that the world that Lovecraft created was used in this book. I think it's used very well in very interesting and unique ways compared to many other books and things like that. Very different from Lovecraft, but still very much drawing on his work, which is something I really appreciated about this book. It was something very interesting and very unique, and something that I would like to see more of. So if you happen to have also read something very similar to this in that sense, definitely leave me some recommendations, because I think it's a fascinating way to look at the Cthulhu mythos. And so I really enjoyed this book kind of from the world building aspect more than anything else, which unfortunately, that is the one major positive point that I have for this book, which, not to say that's the only good thing, it's written well, I enjoyed the writing style of it, things like that. It's a well-written, solid book, And I also did enjoy some of the other parts of it, like it's a kind of a historical fiction with the backdrop of the Cthulhu mythos. So you have a lot of parallels drawn between the residents of Innsmouth who have been imprisoned and like the Japanese Americans who were imprisoned in camps after the bombing of Pearl Harbor and things like that. So there's some interesting like historical stuff going on here as well. But really, in general, that's about the only really positive things I have to say with this book, because in general, the plot and the characters didn't really do much for me. Like, I enjoyed the world building a lot. I thought the world building was really cool. But when it comes to a book that is obviously very reliant on a narrative and characters, you know, it only having the world building really pulling you in isn't really enough. And the characters were fine, but didn't really grab me. The plot was fine, but didn't really grab me, which is really unfortunate because I really went into this book wanting to love it. And I love a lot of the ideas and the concepts here, which is why I say I hope I really enjoy the second book, because the kind of base that this book is working off of is really interesting, and the concept behind it and everything is just that what it does with it, to me, mostly was not that interesting and didn't really grab my attention all that much. It is a book where I was reading it and was generally not that excited about reading it, aside from getting more of that world building. You know, there were some interesting bits and pieces of this book, interesting things that happened here and there, but generally, for some reason, it just did not grab me, which I hate to say, but that really is all I have to say about this book. Which, you know, it stinks that I don't have a whole lot to say about this book in terms of providing a review for you. But really, it just comes down to, I liked the world building, did not really care for the plot and characters. They were pretty forgettable and uninteresting to me for the most part, which is really unfortunate because the ideas and the concepts and the setup is there, but it just didn't quite land for me. So it's quite unfortunate, and really hate to say it, but that's just how it is. So as far as a rating that I would give Wintertide, I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. It was decent, and again, I think for me, like a 5 is purely neutral. So I'd say it's slightly above that because I did really enjoy the world building, but in terms of the plot and characters, just did not land for me for some reason. And again, great setup, great ideas, but it's just the book itself didn't really do much for me, which is really unfortunate. However, because I do have the second book in the duology, I am intending to read that. I'm probably going to be reading that sometime in December, I think, or possibly later, but right now I'm planning on December. So hopefully I enjoy that one a little more. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about this one. So let me know in the comments if you have read Wintertide and the Innsmouth Legacy in general. If you've read both books, let me know which one you prefer. Let me know what you thought of this one, all that kind of stuff. And once again, if there are any books that do something similar to this conceptually, let me know in the comments, because I think that would be really interesting. That kind of looking at the Cthulhu mythos from the inside perspective is something that I think is really interesting. So that is pretty much it for this video. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.